This is Reasonable Doubt with your hosts, Mark Geragos and Adam Carolla.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get on the church. Get on mandate. Get it on. And welcome to Reasonable Doubt, best hour or so in the universe. I'm Adam Carolla. That's Mark. Hard out. Geragos.
By the way, you know, I was not supposed to be in studio today, but I've been an angry guy today. And I rearranged everything. I said, I need a dose of Adam because I felt like you could empathize with a lot of adults who I'm dealing with who are children. And that you, better than anyone, who just through fits of pique, I'm going to talk in very general terms so that somebody won't identify the client or who we may be talking about. But there's a lot of adults who are grown people who there's a component of a free ride combined with a sense of entitlement combined with just, you know, throwing fits and just being totally irrational. And it's I was thinking about it over the weekend. I had a wonderful weekend. And then today there's just been a lot of people who I just want to slap.
Well, my next book is going to be called "Did You Ever Think Adults Would Be This Stupid?" I had no idea when I was a kid. Remember when you were a kid?
Yes, when you were a kid, you thought, I can hardly wait to be an adult because everybody's going to grow into this thing and it's going to be all rational and
also just like professional. Like when your dad would bring some colleague home or something, it didn't matter what his job. He could be a surgeon, it could be an engineer. You just thought, well, that dude knows his business. I had no idea how many adults wouldn't even know their business that they're in, much less act like 7-year-olds.
And I'm talking, the one person I'm focused on right now is accomplished and everything else and acts like, as you say, a 7-year-old. It's fit of pique constantly. And it's just, I have said to this person repeatedly about how if they can't seem to get out of their own way. And it's just,
well, you know, it's funny. It is interesting, shifting gears, but I didn't know Mark was coming in. I wasn't even sure of the schedule in general today. Oftentimes, I finish my podcast and say, you know, night, and everyone says, you're not going anywhere. You got more podcasts to do. So things shift. Anyway, Mark, when we were talking last time, I said, why didn't the FBI just interview Tony Bobulinski? And he's out there saying he's Hunter Biden's partner, and he's got all these emails, and I've heard him interviewed. Seems very credible. So if you'd like to get to the bottom of this, why not haul him in? Why not arrest him at an airport and bring him in, or a pre-dawn raid? You can bring the CNN cameras and then have a conversation with the man, see what he knows. And then Mark said, oh, the FBI's already done that. And I thought, oh, did they? And then I thought, well, Mark knows, but I was assuming they hadn't. But yes, they would almost have to. I mean, he's making the rounds talking about this. And Mark said he did, or they did. And it stuck in my craw a little bit. I was like, yeah, I guess they would have. Like they should have. And then I turned on the news this morning, and they were talking about how Tim Tebow, who's another Tim Tebow, FBI guy. I guess he was involved.
He's the non-Heisman.
Yes, he was involved with investigations, including Russiagate and the Hunter Biden laptop thing. The news was saying the FBI talked to Bobulinski, but Tebow did not. Like, he didn't follow it up. He didn't. So I guess we're both sort of half right on that one. And now there's some heat on Tebow, and I guess maybe Tebow resigned. Because the allegation is he's sort of playing partisan with his investigations. But how, and I actually filmed the TV and sent it to Mark, which is they're not doing, Tebow did not follow up with Bobulinski. Now, that seems unusual to me.
There was this could be the theme for the week or for the best hour, because you noticed that. And I was separately, I guess yesterday or this morning, to Gary when the Judge Cannon came out and appointed the special master for Trump. And you might remember, I kept saying, people are poo-pooing this, and all the commentators are mocking these guys, but there is a legitimate issue here. And then it gets reported today, and the reporter is this astonishing, and Gary's got some quotes, and I was thinking about our discussion. It's funny that maybe the mind meld drew me here like a magnet today, and that's why I moved everything around. It's really become quite a time we live in where you know that something happened, and yet you know that you're being manipulated at the same time, and it's disturbing. I mean, yes, obviously the FBI had to. There's no way they're going to not. But the deep sixing of it, did I expect that? Well, does it surprise me having dealt with law enforcement for 40 years? No, it doesn't surprise me.
So they need to do the interview because that would be gross negligence if they did not interview the partner of a case that you're working on.
They do this.
Once they get the interview, what do they do with it? I'll give you an example for a discovery dump. I get a discovery dump on a federal case that I'm handling. And it takes forever for the people to go through it because they give you everything, and it's basically find the needle in the haystack. And there's like a lone report. And this report is stunning. I wish I could give you all the facts, but I'm sure it's attorney's eyes only. I don't even know. But you say to yourself, somebody interviewed this person, and then they just let it be? Yeah, that's what they do, because if it doesn't fit a narrative that they are driving, they being law enforcement, they're not going to follow it up. I've actually had them argue repeatedly, not once, not twice, 100 times. We don't have to do your investigation, quote unquote. Yeah, it's like Mike Nifung from North Carolina. Was it North Carolina? Duke Lacrosse. Yeah. He had information about time stamps and receipts from ATMs that would have exonerated the guys he was going to prosecute, but he made no never mind of it. He just sort of kept going.
I turned it over, but it's not my duty to investigate. Really? Is it your duty to convict, or is it your duty to seek truth?
Right. And he looked at his duty to convict. Yeah, the other thing, and maybe Gary can help me out with this, that's a little disturbing about that whole laptop case is I guess it's the Securities Commission has about 150 red flags and I'm not exaggerating, there's like 150 financial transactions that Hunter Biden was involved with that they flagged. Like they said, we're in charge of looking at wrongdoers overseas and flagging them. And they flagged about 150 of them. And Biden did a thing where the Congress could no longer look into, I guess, Gary, I'm paraphrasing, but no longer look into those flag things. Only the party that was in power. It used to just be anybody in Congress can look it up. Now it's the majority can decide whether they're going to follow up on that stuff.
I hadn't seen this. If Gary can find
it, they've decided not to follow up on it because they're not interested. But there is a new world order where this whole partisan thing has shifted hard, and I don't know what shall become of the FBI. I don't know what happened to Tim Tebow. I don't know why he was relieved of his duties.
I'll tease it for first, because I'll tease it for after, because I want to show what has happened I want to use the special master situation as a perfect example of what is going on legally. I mean, in a legal standpoint. But first, Rocket Money. How about that? Rebranded, right? It used to be Truebill, which we loved. Sick of managing your finances with buggy spreadsheets? Afraid to look at your bank statements? Take back control of your financial life. Meet Rocket Money, formerly Truebill, our favorite financial app. Why did Truebill change its name to Rocket Money, now backed by rocket companies? Truebill has grown from a bill management app into a full personal finance empowerment tool. Rocket Money helps over 3.4 million people with budgeting, lowering bills, canceling subscriptions. That's what I love. And more. Their members save on average $700 a year. They save me actually more than that. Rocket Money, everything I've loved about Truebill with a fresh look and feel. Right, Gary?
That's absolutely right. Start canceling your unused subscriptions and save money at rocketmoney.com/doubt. That's rocketmoney.com/doubt, or download from the app from the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
So this is what is infuriating, and it fits right into what you're talking about. There's Trump's lawyers had filed for a special master. Mm-hmm. The judge had issued a tentative decision that she was going to appoint a special master. Immediately, the usual suspects, and when I say the usual suspects, this works on both sides. If you're anti-Trump, then you trot out people who were were either like Neil Katyal, the Solicitor General from Obama, who, by the way, is charging $2,000 an hour and defending all kinds of people, yet is acting as if he's got an inside track to the truth. Or, Gary, do you have some of the other people? People were predicting this motion was laughable. It's never going to be granted. What are you talking about, executive privilege? As if it was black letter law. Mind you, so that you understand, he's asserting, President Trump, the ex-president, is asserting his executive privilege. President Biden is saying, no, I'm waiving that executive privilege. The idea is, well, wait a second, how can you just waive and then not waive? And doesn't somebody who held the office, mind you, there's only been 40 some odd presidents, so how does one guy waive and other guy doesn't? If I have an attorney-client privilege and somebody else subs in for my client, does that mean that the attorney-client privilege is waived? I mean, there's a legitimate issue here. It was poo-pooed to the point where it was almost, I thought, laughable, the commentators. Gary, and then the decision comes out, and she stops it, and she enjoins them and says that this is an issue.
Well, we're sort of, I think, but you tell me if this is sort of analogous or correct. We've talked about it before. We do this thing where we're going to find out what Kyle Rittenhouse is up to, and his trial's going on. So CNN then gets a whole bunch of legal experts, and they start saying, well, carrying a gun across state lines, his mom drove him there. He had no business in Wisconsin. He knows nobody there, and blah, blah, blah. And they set this whole thing up. Well, then in the course of the trial, we find out he didn't transport the gun. His mom didn't drive him. His dad lived in the city he was at. Okay. But they don't cover any of that. And then when the trial doesn't go their way, they're outraged and confused. And I would say the audience is as well, because the experts were just saying, this is outrageous, this will never happen. And then the judge grants it. And then they're all like, what is going on with our system? Well, what's going on with our system is the system is playing out. What's going on with you saying things are outrageous or unprecedented or unheard of? I've been a prosecutor for 41 years. I've never seen anything like this. It's like... So you take something that could be commonplace or common practice or well-worn judicial experiences, you call them never before and outrageous, and then when it happens, you're outraged. And so is the anchor. And
look at some of these quotes, Gary, because we talked about this. I said there are legitimate issues here, and there's so many. The stupidity is unbelievable. They say, well, the Department of Justice has already gone through it, so what does it matter? Hey, do you know what a taint team is? People keep tweeting at me, tell Adam what a taint team is. But a taint team means it's supposed to be separate from the investigative team. So guess what? One of the things she said in her order, read the order, is the taint team is already clearly there's been a breach on at least 2 occasions. So she's enjoining them. That's what she's doing, because she's saying we haven't let these issues played out. And that's what I keep saying. These issues are not played out. Gary, let's see some of the comments by people when her tentative opinion and her opinion and the facts come out. Here's what people say.
Law professor Steve Vadalak is up first. This ruling is preposterous. I never thought I'd have to teach about executive privilege as a basis for bringing a claim against the executive branch.
Yeah,
see.
let me just talk about that. Who are you teaching, by the way, where you thought you'd never have to have a issue of executive privilege? Really? You didn't think you'd have to teach about a privilege where there hasn't been precedent that has talked about whether the executive privilege applies and whether a subsequent president can revoke the executive privilege? Really? That isn't, I would think the opposite if I'm a law professor. I'd think, what a great teachable moment. I get to discuss this. Instead,
Duke University law professor Samuel Bell said, quote, to any lawyer with a serious federal criminal court experience who is being honest, this ruling is laughably bad and the written justification is even flimsier.
Okay, I'm going to bet, what's his name?
Samuel Bell.
Okay, I'm going to bet I have argued more cases into federal criminal juries than Samuel Bell. And it's not laughable. In fact, it makes perfect sense to me that she called timeout so she could do this in an orderly fashion.
What is the beef with getting a master? I
There,
mean, you hate Trump, fine, but
Right.
what else?
Yeah. Oh, it's going to delay things. What?
Halts the criminal investigation is a line I've seen in a lot of articles.
Yeah.
We got all the time in the world for Trump, though.
But it's halted.
Didn't we have a 3-year investigation for Trump?
It's halted.
It's halted.
It's halted.
And then it'll restart.
By the way, for those who don't remember, go back and listen to the tape. I mentioned early on when Michael Cohen had a search warrant executed on him, Trump's former lawyer, that it was surprising to me that there wasn't a more fully developed special master procedure federally because, for instance, in California, you've got a specific code section, 1524. You've got a specific protocol within 72 hours where you can demand a hearing. You've got specific things, case law that's been developed at the state level. And at the federal level, it's not developed. And so this makes perfect sense. This is how the law develops. Once you get into these gray areas, you have to have people who then make the arguments. You have to have judges call the balls and strikes. And then all of this is, if I've heard once, I've heard 10 times, Trump appointed judge, 6 out of the 11 or 6 out of whatever judges in the 11th Circuit are Trump appointees. So therefore, we're going to just say that we're not getting good law.
Right. Well, and that's what it comes down to. Appointed by whom? And then we make a bunch out of that. Do you have any more, Gary?
Oh, yeah, we have several. You guys want to pivot over to former Attorney General Bill Barr?
Yeah,
sure.
By the way, is he not selling a book?
He's been making the rounds, that's for certain. He said, quote, I think it's a crock of shit. I don't think a special master is called for. If the documents are subject to executive privilege, they involve official deliberations about executive actions, and by definition, those documents belong to the government. He went on to say, I think the driver on this from the beginning was loads of classified information sitting in Mar-a-Lago. People say that was unprecedented. Well, it's also unprecedented for a president to take all of this classified information and put them in a country club, okay?
Wow, it's funny because remember, he was always accused of doing Trump's bidding.
Exactly. I was just going to say, this is the guy who literally did the cliff notes and left out significant parts of the Mueller report and was blasphemy. But now when he's doing the party line, he's all of a sudden exalted as it's a crock of shit.
Well, speaking of Trump, I was listening to my friend Dennis Prager interview from prison. Not Dennis, but a guy who was being held for the January 6th insurrection/riot. And this guy was painting a very sad tale of just being locked up for 20 months with no habeas corpus and saying, some people did more, some people did less, but a lot of those people are still being held, maybe up to 200 people. Is there precedent for this? And what is the rationale?
Look, it's kind of amazing, the schizophrenic nature of the criminal justice system. On one hand, we talk about the fact we had a whole no cash bail movement. Remember that? No cash bail. You're making money for the insurance companies and blah, blah, blah. Then you get somebody like my client, Cain Velasquez, and he's got no bail. None.
Right.
I mean, they won't even set it at $1 million. I offered to post $1 million. Then you've got these guys who, for whatever you want to say about the January 6th people who are accused, they are still pre-trial. They still have a presumption of innocence. And I do not understand how, I mean, and frankly, the federal system is usually better than the states. But I don't understand how you just, at the same time in your brain say, okay, you've got a presumption of innocence, but we're going to deny you bail, except in basically capital offenses.
Yeah, well, I think the problem is it smells like they don't like these guys, which is fine. I don't like gangbangers, but we still have a system in place, and we have to sort of participate in it and abide by its rules. And generally, they're not sympathetic characters, but we are going on sneaking up on 2 years of holding people without bail. And by the way, I don't know when the court dates are either. I mean, they keep kicking the can down the road.
You've got a speedy trial rights, but the speedy trial rights was one of the, you've heard me a billion times talk about during COVID. We just suspended for the first time in modern history the right to speedy trial, both federally and in the state. And we're just starting to get back to it. But by the way, what's the only state in the union that still has an emergency order?
California.
Yeah.
Oh, are we the only one now?
Yeah.
I know Texas had one for a while.
Yeah, I believe we're the only state remaining that's got an emergency order.
So, Gary, can you find out how many people are still being held? I mean, the guy's talking about solitary confinement and 23 hours in with an hour of rec room and the guards heckling them. And, he painted a tale of woe, which is what everyone does in prison. But seemed unusually harsh on guys who didn't have records, who weren't what you call flight risks and things of that nature, men and women, I think. It seems weird that they're still in, and it seems abundantly clear that they're in because they're on the wrong side of the politics of this. But it also seems strange that the whole system is willing to go along with that.
Well,
Texas's order expired 2 weeks ago.
Oh, I knew theirs was around. So we're in.
We're it, right?
Yeah.
So is it? But maybe it's a emergency order because of the mismanaged forest and all the wildfires, or the lack of having drinkable water, or the power grid being down, or is this still?
We certainly should have
thing?
That, but no, it's COVID.
Oh, okay. All right.
I noticed today also that for the first time on one of these COVID insurance cases in Texas, a jury ruled, I think for Baylor University, that the insurance company had to pay, that the courts had actually let one of these cases, and whether there was physical damage to property, that became a jury issue. And it's amazing, where are we now? 30 months out from March? Yeah, almost 30 to the day. It's taken that long for the pendulum to swing and for the law to come back around.
Well, there's going to have to be a lot of cases. There was a lot of students that were charged full freight tuition but said they can't come back to the classroom. There were a lot of people fired from jobs because they wouldn't get vaccinated. I mean, it seems like there's going to be a lot of lawsuits floating around out there pertaining to COVID.
You would think so. And part of what has happened is there's been kind of a damping down or a tamping down of the cases and just you've heard me bitch about it for 30 months. It's almost as if we just suspended all kind of critical, normal, legal thinking, and we just entered this kind of, trust. It was almost like this weird leap of faith.
Upon further inspection, there are possibly as many as 13 states with orders in place. Many, if not most of them, have expiration dates where they will end if they are not renewed. California is one of the only states with until further notice.
Till Gavin decides where he wants to eat tonight. Well, look up.
It's certainly not going to be a fast food restaurant because he was. Did you see him on Labor Day? Do you have that little spot from him on Labor Day?
I
What was
put that
he
out of my
doing?
mind after I sent it to you.
I didn't even see it.
Hold on, I'll put that up in
You
a
gotta
minute or
put
two.
it
All
up.
right, you look for that. I'll tell you about American Hartford Gold. Inflation at a 40-year high. Interest rates skyrocketing. Experts like J.P. Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon predict a recession using terms like economic hurricane. Protect your future. Do what I did. Call American Hartford Gold. They'll help you protect your savings, your retirement by diversifying your portfolio with physical gold and silver. One short phone call, and they'll have physical gold and silver delivered right to your door or inside your IRA or 401k. Highest rated firm in the country, A-plus rating from the Triple B. Thousands of satisfied customers. Call them right now and get up to $1,500 in free silver on your first order. It's American Hartford Gold. Am I right, Gary?
You are right. Call 866-828-8992. That's 866-828-8992 or text DOUBT to 998899. Again, that's 866-828-8992 or text DOUBT to 998899.
All right, so what did we have? I didn't see.
I can't believe you missed this. Here's our Labor Day special.
Well, happy Labor Day, everybody. And I think one of the things that makes California a special place, by definition, is we're the 5th largest economy in the world. But that didn't happen by chance. We've long had a formula for success around growth and inclusion. So many states forget the latter part of that formula. But I'm really proud of California, and I'm proud of the men and women of organized labor, particularly on Labor Day, for their extraordinary work over the course of decades to empower workers, to give them voice and choice, and to fight not just for wages, but better working conditions. At the same time, we got work to do. At the same time, we recognize there are sectors of our economy where we're falling a bit short. And one of those areas is fast food workers. And I want to thank Assemblymember Holden in particular for AB 257 and all of his hard work, a bill that empowers our workers, particularly in that sector, giving them more voice, giving them more choice, creating a new council. And I'm proud on Labor Day to sign that bill and to shrine it in law.
Oh,
That bill
wants
will
to unionize fast food workers.
And minimum, Gary, what is it? $22 an hour at fast
22.
food? Yeah. Let me just tell you where this is going to head.
Where's this going, Mark?
This is you're not going to get better jobs. You're going to get no jobs. You're going to become completely automated by kiosk. It's already happening. This is just going to accelerate kiosks and the idea.
The robot burger flipper.
Yep.
Look, there's a couple things about this, and I've always kind of said government is slow and dumb, and business is fast and smart. Slow and dumb could be a game of chess. You're never going to beat fast and smart. But I'm talking about like a fundamental issue, like you kind of talk about, with rare exception. But if you want to get yourself a job, as a district attorney, you want to work for the state, you want to be, a lawyer. I mean, it's not insanely different than the DMV versus the private sector, in that the best and the brightest are not going to spend their entire career downtown making a fraction of what they could make if they hung their own shingle up and opened their own law firm and so on and so forth. It's just not the way humans work. So there's a higher look. There's better athletes in the NFL than there is in the Canadian Football League, and better still than the Arena Football League, because they get paid more, and so it's going to attract the sort of elite people. And so when it comes to government versus private sector, by and large, the private sector is going to attract the elite people. And those elite people, it's their job to deal with and then outsmart the government. That's their job. That's what they do. When we say, what are all these big corporations going offshore and stuff? That's what they're doing. Everything they do. If you look, every theater I played when I was young in the entire city was a 99-seater. They would always say, 99 seat. We're going to this place, it's a 99 seater. That place, a 99 seater. It's equity waiver theater. Because when you get to 100 seats, then you have to start paying the actors and SAG and AFTRA and insurance and everything else. So everyone builds a theater that's 99 seats. So the government comes up with a plan. They go, hey, once you get to 100 people, we need to start getting paid or unionized or insurance or whatever.
By the way, that's this law, 100 outlets, right, Gary?
They go, okay, well, what we're going to do is we'll have 99 In-N-Out burgers, and then you can go get an In-N-Out burger, the new entity we're calling Bozos. But you can order it animal style there, and you'll get the same. Because that's what they do. You make the decree, and then the smarter people will figure out a way to work around that. So you can say, you can make minimum wage $50 an hour. They will then start automating and leaving town and doing whatever it is they need to do not to come up with that. Not to mention, then a hamburger in California will not be $4.95. It'll be $7.95 because that's what business does.
And by the way, where are the first jobs coming from? I mean, what I've never understood, being in the restaurant business, first of all, you're on margins that are incredibly slim. You hit on the nail on the head. If you want to stay in business, all you're going to do is raise your prices. And if you raise your prices and somebody can't afford it, then you're going to go out of business.
Yeah, that's what business does. They make money and they'll pass along. Could be taxes, could be minimum wage, or whatever it is. They're not going to eat it or work at a deficit.
You can't do it. You get $1 out of every buck. You got to have food costs. You got to have labor. You got to have the electricity. If you're in the city of LA, you've got DWP eating you
all
alive.
the OSHA stuff,
right?
And all the insurance.
Insurance. How about
yes, of course. So you're not going to outsmart them. They're going to do something. It's going to backfire on you. But then also this. You're right. It's your first job. You know, when they do the mother of three who's supposed to be getting by. Mothers of three are not supposed to be working at Wendy's. That's how it works. And I would argue that the unforeseen consequences, which I am a big proponent of, which is you cannot shut down schools for 2 years without damage down the road to the kids. You cannot defund the police without crime spiraling. Like this, we're going to do this. We're gonna do X, but Y is not going to happen. No. Y is what happens next, and it happens fast, and it's not what you want to happen. You need a farm team for people who want to get work experience, not settle into a dead-end job. If you don't want your kid getting a job at McDonald's going, pretty sweet. I got a cushy gig. I may just ride this out. I may be here in my 40s. Yeah. You know, you want them going, this sucks. I'm not making enough. I got to get out here, which I did at McDonald's. I got to McDonald's. I was there for 10 minutes when I was 16. I was like, fuck this. This sucks. If God's honest, if they paid well and extraordinarily well, I would have hung out for a while. But I've also said, and I don't know how you defeat this argument, I don't think there should be a set anything. Like, I don't think there should be your attorney's fees. You want to be the best. You want to charge the most. Go up the street to Home Depot. I've said a million times, there's guys waiting there to do labor, some skilled, some unskilled. They have a price. The government doesn't get to decide what that price is. You have to go over there, and then when the guy quotes you $27 an hour, you kind of think, maybe I'll mulch my own yard. Or pay him the money. It's right. Between you and him. I don't know why there's a set anything.
So I in high school started waiting tables and hosting at a place that's now the Parkway Grill. It's that old Amco transmission shop that Mark Perkins turned into. Back then it was Emily's Restaurant. And then I worked myself up from a host to a waiter, and we were singing waiters, by the way. And
wow.
And we used to make, on the weekends, you could make, this is 1975 and 1976, you could make $400 or $500 on the weekend. And
wow.
That was a lot of cash.
Yes, it was.
And I will tell you what ended up happening. I found it very difficult to to kind of damp down the Armo in me that wanted to have that cash in my pocket and go to college at the same time. And, there was kind of this yin and yang. But I did go to college. I did go to law school. I did start practicing. And 20 years later, there were a lot of the guys that I waited tables with at Emily's restaurant who were still waiting tables 20 years later because the money was just good enough to disincentivize you from doing anything else. And I went through it. I mean, I remember thinking, what the hell am I studying this or that and learning about the, dividing jackal tracks in the Congo when I could be, making $200 on a Saturday night singing Happy, Happy Birthday, Baby.
Look, it's the same with strippers, except for they age out. So they're kind of forced to move on. But it's true. I had a stripper girlfriend. She worked at the Star Garden in North Hollywood.
God, I hadn't thought of the Star Garden in I don't know how long.
She came home with a handful of 20s and 10s every night. And that at some point she tried to go legit and work at Daly and Associates.
Doing what?
She was like a receptionist or something. She didn't have any skills. That's why she was a stripper.
Yeah, but the problem is when they go from stripper to receptionist, it's a come down.
Yes, it is. Good name for a strip club.
Yeah, come down.
The point is after 7 weeks at Daly and Associates, which is an advertising firm,
it's not around anymore, is it? I remembered at the time. Gary,
I'll try to connect these dots. It's Einstein, which is Super Dave's older brother, and Cliff Einstein. And then Albert Brooks is the youngest brother.
Right.
So it's the three Brooks brothers, but Albert Brooks is Albert Einstein, which sounds insane, but he is. And
did he
Super
change
Dave
his name
became
to
Super Dave.
Right.
And then Cliff Einstein just kept it at Cliff Einstein and opened Daly and Associates. And if you watch Albert Brooks movies, oftentimes they're set in an advertising firm. And that's because his brother had the advertising firm, and they could go film
right at the place.
And they had the Ford account, like in the movie. It was kind of a central part of discovering America, I think. But I was at Super Dave's funeral, and there was Cliff Einstein up there, funny, giving the eulogy, talked to him for a little bit. But that was Daly and Associates. It's a big firm, big advertising firm.
Wow.
And she went to work there.
How long she lasted?
A couple months. The point is I had taxes were being taken out, and it was no fun. And it was like she wanted to go back into stripping because that was an easy gig, and I got paid cash,
Yeah,
and
you can sleep all day.
It is. People don't. I don't think they realize the sort of velvet bear trap that is like a union gig where you're getting paid a lot more than a prevailing wage would be. Like when I was a carpenter.
What were you making as a carpenter pre and post union?
Well, I never was in a union, but but I had some experience with it, and the reason I had experience with it is because the goal was to get in the union, because we were out there just sort of fighting it out for whatever the wage was, which at the time would have been $13 to $15 an hour for a carpenter in like the mid '80s. Then you'd hear about some union guy who's getting $29 an hour plus golden time plus, perks and bumps and all that. And that, of course, is what we wanted. Now, that guy is still there because he didn't have the incentive to get out. But I did earthquake rehab for the city of Los Angeles. And when I did, I got bumped up immediately to like $19 or $20 an hour, which was a full $7 more than I was making just out on the street. And then the city is such a shit show that they made the laborers got paid more than the carpenters, probably because they had a stronger union or a different union or something like that. And I was made a laborer because I was the best carpenter. So they decided, we'll make you a laborer and we'll give you the most. So it was it's when I was kind of understood, like, why they're paying these guys so much more than they need to pay them. It was also, we had to have a woman, we had to have a black man, we had to have an Asian man. You know, there was a lot of that. And then, of course...
Well, that's Gavin Newsom, inclusion.
Right. Those people that were showing up had no experience as carpenters at all. We didn't need them to have experience as carpenters. We needed a black guy on the crew. And also, there's something that happens, which is they knew they were sort of like, what are you going to do, cut me? I'm the black guy. I'll show up when I want. It doesn't bring out the best. It doesn't bring out the most competitive spirit in people. It is kind of that velvet bear trap, and it does just like the waiters. It's hard.
It's hard to leave.
Daly and Associates is alive and well with a office on Melrose.
Wow. Oh, really? Mm-hmm. And
you know what else?
To say what accounts they have?
Yeah. Big stuff. Ford, Butterfingers.
Oh, they're still with Ford.
Yeah, they're doing a bunch of big stuff. It looks like they did a Super Bowl commercial last year.
Wow.
And Honda Gullwing, the big Honda motorbikes.
So Cliff is probably gone. He's probably retired, but he left it. It's still
Gary's
on.
going to look that up while he does. You know what else is a velvet bear claw that'll keep you nice and protected? Geico. Do you own or rent your own home? Sure you do. Can be hard work. You know what's easy? Bundling policies with Geico. Geico makes it easy to bundle your homeowners, your renter's insurance, along with your auto policy. It's a good thing, too, because you already have so much to do around your home. Go to geico.com. By the way, I lambaste you guys when Geico's spelled wrong. It's spelled right here. Go to Geico, Geico.com. Get a quote and see how much you could save. It's Geico easy. Visit geico.com today. That's Geico, Geico.com.
You know, the other aspect of this is if I'm running a restaurant of any kind, and let's just say it's a fast food restaurant, you know, when I worked at McDonald's, I had this manager named Ken. Ken was a big guy. And Ken would reach into the freezer with the frozen patties, and he'd pull out probably 5 stacked in each hand.
And some big paws.
Big paws. And he'd slap them down. Boom, 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 boom. I would grab 2 and put it down. He would grab 5. He's like, here's how you do it. You know, boom, 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 boom.
Right.
And if I was working at a McDonald's and I was kicking ass on the grill, I wouldn't want to be paid the same amount as mandated by Gavin Newsom as the guy who was just sitting there at the counter picking his nose. I would like to distinguish myself. I would like the boss to be able to go, that guy's kicking ass on that grill. He's going to get $17 an hour. And that tree sloth over there working at register 4, she's getting $11 an hour because she just got no fire in her belly. Like, where's the incentive? Are we all just going to become government sort of automatons?
Well, all you got to do, I think, is visit the DMV or visit
the Department of Building and Safety.
Department of Building. Somebody was just telling me a nightmare about them yesterday, and you will know where we're headed.
Yeah, because you just go there and everyone's moving at the same speed.
They don't care.
Ultimately, go to Russia. Find the stores that are out of food. The hours aren't 9 to 5. You know, you just look at the hours. You know what I mean? The hours are noon to 2. You know what I mean? Look, you go to a grocery market out here, the hours are 7 a.m. to 10 p.m., 7 days a week.
Well,
I mean, that's open a lot.
There's a place in La Cañada, I won't name it, but Jake and I have a ongoing joke about the fact that it's got to be a money laundering place because it's never open. I mean, it's, how do they make money? They're just never open.
You probably own the building they're in, so why don't you ask them?
But there is a certain amount of, you gotta, unless you're trying to pay bills and trying to make money, where is the incentive to
Well, also, where else does it exist? You know what I mean? Like in the podcast world, does Joe Rogan get paid the same as Sonny in his podcast? You know, it's like, no, that's not how anything works.
I don't understand it, Andy. You know, I was talking to somebody yesterday, speaking of podcasts, who was saying that one of his partners was getting very uppity, if you will, about another deal that they were looking at. And he said, do you understand, the friend I was talking to said, do you understand how we get paid? I mean, you want to be pure as the driven snow. You don't want to do this. You don't want to do that. But do you understand how we get paid? I mean, the money just doesn't appear.
Right. So there's certain guys like, I won't do spots on my podcast.
And, Gavin Newsom is great. I know you have some businesses, but it must have been easier to do your wine shop or your vineyard or your other businesses if you've got somebody with the last name Getty who's bankrolling you, because then you don't have to make money. It's there's a dilettante factor to that. If you don't have anybody bankrolling you, if you're not, fighting at all points to get this program or that program or to comply with this, or somebody's looking at the coat rack on your bathroom door because they want to sue you or this or that. I mean, that's what actually a business is all about. It's fighting with your vendors who want to get paid cash in the barrelhead. You want to be net 15 or net 30. I mean, you can't do that if somebody is backstopping you. You don't understand it.
I agree. I can't remember who it was, but I've quoted it. Maybe it was Mondale. I can't remember. I'm looking at Gary, but he said he was in Congress or was in government his whole life, and then he went out and tried to open himself not an Airbnb, a B&B. Like back, he quit, went to the private sector, tried to open a B&B, said there was so much regulation, he just failed. And he said, man, if I knew this when I was in government, I would have never made all those mandates. And I would like you to be just like Israel does. Go in the army for 2 years and then go do what everyone. All politicians, LA City or whomever, Gavin Newsom, go in the private sector, work, make payroll, do that for 2 years, and then go out.
Then go and do what you want,
proclamations.
because then you could understand. You have to understand what it is to manage a finite number of dollars with an infinite thirst for your dollars.
Yeah, and without the possibility of printing more dollars if you come up short. But also, the whole thing is really sort of un-American in its own way. Like when they do this thing where they go, if we don't mandate this amount, this $22 an hour, whatever it is, for the fast food workers, then what's to stop the owner from taking advantage of the labor force? And my answer is that will be determined by the market. I cannot go up the street to the Home Depot guys and go, I'm maxing you guys out at $8 an hour. Now get in the back of the truck. We've got to set some cinder block. They go, fuck you.
It was George McGovern.
Was it George McGovern?
McGovern. Excuse me.
So listen, that'll be between the guy who runs the McDonald's and I got a 16-year-old. He's dipping his toe, not in any hurry, but into the work pool. There's a McDonald's up the street.
Right.
Sonny could go over there. And if the guy offers him $4 an hour, then he's not going to work there.
Right.
And if he offers him $13 an hour, he's going to think about it. And if he offers him 22, he's all in. So
but let me give you another.
Let it be between them.
Well, and also, state to state, it makes no sense. You've got, I've mentioned this before, but there is another state where the minimum wage is different if you're getting tips.
Right.
If you're getting tips, it's different than if you're working just straight by the hour. So,
right.
And by the way, I'm still waiting for the first employee who will declare their cash tips. I've never come across that yet. It's amazing how they never get cash tips.
It's funny. Somebody tweeted me this, Gary, and I think I liked it, but he said, he showed me a picture of him leaving a $20 tip for, $100 bill. And he had a little pre-printed piece of paper. This is a gift from me to you. I'm allowed to, by law, give out $1,500 worth of gifts to friends and family or whoever. It does not have to be declared. as income because it is not a tip. It is a gift that I'm giving you, and I shall sign this little piece of paper that says so, which I thought was semi-diabolical.
It is diabolical, but at the same time, why waste your time or effort? Because nobody's declaring cash tips anyway. At the same time that they're getting the same. I've always thought that dynamic between front of house and back of house makes no sense, but that's a whole different argument.
All right, Gary can find that. I'll tell you about Cerebral. Psychiatrist's visit can cost up to $500 per session, and traditional therapy can be over $100. That adds up to thousands of years. Cerebral, online mental health service that offers prescription medications, counseling, and therapy for anxiety, depression, ADHD, insomnia, and more. One of the few services that provides prescription medication online through a licensed provider and ships meds straight to your door. Unlimited messaging with your care team. Connect with your counselor and therapist on your own, schedule through your laptop or your Cerebral mobile app. Simone Biles is their chief impact officer, and she understands what this can be like. She's a huge advocate of reducing stigma around getting treatment. So take care of your brain with Cerebral, right, Gary?
Listeners of this program can receive 65% off your first month of medication management and care counseling at getcerebral.com/doubt. Go to getcerebral.com/doubt for 65% off your first month. That's just a total of $30 to get started. Join Cerebral today on their mission to make quality mental health care accessible and affordable for all. Ace, it does not appear you liked it, so I can keep trying to dig here in the last minute or two.
It doesn't matter.
Do you know, though, you are kind of my Cerebral. I always view, that's why I call it the best hour of the universe. I should start paying you for this.
Well, I concur, but that'll be between us, not mandated by Gavin Newsom, number one. And number two, in a world, I didn't have to talk to sane people in the past because I used to be in construction and everyone around me was relatively sane. Now, they drank too much and sometimes they put their hands on their old lady, but they didn't think like lunatics. They didn't have feelings about gussets or girders or glue lamb beams, and they didn't feel in their heart of hearts that they did a good enough job nailing off those joist hangers with their Tico nails. They either did it or they didn't do it. And so I never needed sane people in my life. But I've found as I get older and everyone else is just drinking crazy Kool-Aid and washing down nut job pills that I find myself talking to guys like you, talking to guys like Dr. Drew, just because you're insane.
It's the same thing. I mean, the world gets smaller and smaller. I can talk to Drew, I can talk to you, and then I want to just explode. Others, I just don't. What are you talking about? Is kind of my new. I don't even understand what we're talking about. Why? What are you reading? What are you watching? What are you hearing?
Well, what they want to hear, what they want to read, what they want to watch.
But I don't know. Where is the curiosity?
I don't know. I think we kind of summed it up with Rob Reiner in our last episode, where he had no idea what was going on, but more importantly, he didn't want to know what was going on, and that's the problem. It's that intellectual honesty / curiosity that makes you kind of go, I want to investigate this versus I want to be in an echo chamber and I only want to hear the sound of my own farts. All right. You can go to live, by the way, Austin, Texas, Cap City Comedy Club. That'll be this Friday and this Saturday. I think Brian Bosworth,
really?
NFL great, is going to be probably... I'll call him an NFL great, but he
really was one
great.
of the great college players of all time. I don't think he reached the same level in the pros, but dang, in college he was.
And sort of the P.T. Barnum of college football players as well. So you can go to adamcarolla.com for all that. New book, Everything Reminds Me of Something, is out as we speak.
By the way, on the book, I know that's the cover picture for those can't see. I really am a fan of the back. The back captures you better.
Thank you.
That's the That's the Adam Carolla right there that I know.
I did not pick out either picture, but thank you. Mark, you got plugs.
I got plugs. Dirty Taco. Go by Grand Central, where it's Jake and Taya really killing it. There's also Prova. Stop by there. Love Pizza in Grand Central. Engine Company 28, still plugging along downtown L.A. and killing it down at LAX, 10E, Mediterranean Tapas, or go down to the V in Palm Spring and visit Gigi's.
So, until next time, Adam Carolla for Mark Geragos saying, Mahala.
Thanks for listening to Reasonable Doubt. Tune in next Saturday for an all-new episode.